Sports4CLE continues. We're going to shift our attention to high school football as most teams will be getting ready and gearing up for their first game either next Thursday or a week from today, next Friday. Let's welcome in Ryan Cavanaugh, my longtime partner on high school football. Spectrum News 1 is where we will be this year. And Ryan, let's begin where you ended last year. The Hoban Knights, Division II, they were state champs a year ago. Shane Ham seems like he's been quarterbacking longer than you and I have been calling games, but he finally graduated after 4 years as a starter.
Man, what a career he had also. And, you know, as you look at it, Hoban is going to have to answer that question that they haven't had to answer for 4 years. And when you go back to Danny Clark, even before that, you had about 2 quarterbacks in 7 years at Hoban. So that's the big question as Hoban comes into this season, defending state champs. Who is going to be the quarterback? Well, the answer comes from an unlikely place. It's Javion Crable. He was at Massillon last year, only a junior, transfers in. The name's familiar because his father, Sean Crable, also from Massillon, played at Michigan and then in the NFL for the Patriots. So Javion Crable comes in. He's got a talented backfield, Lamar Sperling and Markham McKinney. And there's Coach Tim Turrell. One thing he always has, Dave, is an outstanding big physical offensive line. And there's some of them. I expect that to be the case again this year. And then on the other side of the ball, defensively, they have what I think might be the best nose tackle in the entire state, in James Martin. He's only a junior. He's started since he was a freshman. So Shane Ham may be gone, but the cupboard's not bare at Hoban.
Yeah, and Tim Turrell is a heck of a football coach as well. We know that. All right, Division I, let's talk a little bit about Menor. Cardinals 9-2 a season ago. What do they have coming back, and who should we pay attention to with Menor?
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, it's a unique situation, Dave. You and I had the game. Jacob Snow, sophomore, started in the state semifinal against Pick Central, and he had about 24 hours notice that he was going to be the guy. This year, he comes in, no questions about who the quarterback is, and he's going to have a little more than 24 hours to prepare. You know that Menor, they always have a bunch of sure-handed wide receivers, guys that can get open. They got running back Brendan Panhorse back, and defensively, only a junior, Brendan Vernon, the 3-year starter, committed to Notre Dame. He is a monster coming off the edge. So expect Menor to be where they always are, Dave, and that's in the conversation for a state championship.
Yeah, without question. And Snow was a tough kid. He did not shy away from contact in that first start in the state semis. Let's move on to another team. Always good, always ready to go. St. Edward Eagles, 6-2 a year ago, lost to Medina in the playoffs.
Well, Coach Lombardo brings back his quarterback, Christian Ramos. As you know, Dave, a terrific baseball player is Ramos. As he went on last year, he continued to get better and he continued to gain confidence. And I look for Coach Lombardo to lean on that experience that Ramos is bringing to the huddle. He's got Danny Yanovich, really tough runner. Dan Scanlon, the offensive line coach, somehow always finds these guys that end up being all-state caliber linemen. So you look at the experience at the quarterback position, the running back position, and then defensively, there's Joel Castleberry. Castleberry, along with Zion Freer-Brown, will be 2 of the names to keep an eye on as the St. Ed's Eagles look to – I think they got a little revenge in mind, Dave. I want another shot at the Battling Bees from Medina, but that won't happen until the playoffs, and they've got to get there. They've got a tough schedule.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Medina, 6-4, made a nice playoff run a season ago. We know the guy that's under center. He's one of the best in the state and one of the best in the country, actually. Quarterback Drew Aller.
Yep, and we're going to talk about him, Dave. But, you know, I think he's Mr. Football. He's got to be at the beginning of that list. Drew Aller, his arm can win you games. He's a very athletic quarterback, and he's just a tremendous talent. But, you know, you and I, Dave, became very familiar with this team last year through the playoffs. They finished strong. They beat Solon, Strongsville. Then get this, St. Ed's and St. Ignatius before falling to Menor in the regional finals. What impressed me the most offensively, obviously Drew Aller stands alone, but the number of wide receivers that could get open, catch the ball, and then do special things after the catch stood out. And defensively, Dave, I went down to Medina and I was looking for the mold of the 6'4", 220-pound football player that apparently they just keep pressing out. Because they had 6-7 dudes that were about that size, very athletic. They could run. A lot of them double as tight ends and running backs. So I expect to see that physical brand of football. Of course, you've got the big quarterback who's going to get the headlines. But what I think Medina has in their favor that they haven't had in the past is that big game experience. They know not only can they play with and compete, but they can beat the Saints.
Yeah, they did it back-to-back last year in the playoffs, and that's always tough to do. All right, another team that's kind of interesting, Division I, Stowe, 5-2, and this is a team that if you're not paying attention to the Stowe Bulldogs, you should be.
Well, and when you see them get off the bus, you will notice this massive offensive line that they're going to roll out. Coach Tom Phillips, about his third or fourth year there, and he's really got things moving. They've got a good quarterback themselves in Owen Bainbridge. Look at the size, right? How do you compete with this? So they're going to be big, they're going to be physical, and they've got some shifty players. Xavier Preston's one of those guys. Get the football to them, good things will happen. And I think, Dave, Stowe, they're flying a little bit under the radar, which I'm sure is exactly where they want to be.
Yeah, and one thing we know, the Bulldogs under Coach Phillips are going to be physical. You are going to get hit. You mentioned the line. That defense will come up and hit you. We've seen that since he's been over at Stowe as well.
Yeah, he's definitely made his mark there. It's what I call the ice bath kind of game. When you get back, you're looking to get in the ice bath because you're going to be sore. And he's got full buy-in. Now these are kids that have been in his program.